Okay, if any of you would like to start a watch party, you're welcome to do that since we are live now. Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening to my really special panelists this evening, as well as everyone out there who has joined our live stream this evening. And so on Girl Positive, we're doing something a little bit different and something a bit more practical. This evening, we are actually speaking about women in business and entrepreneurship. So welcome to my panelists. And at this moment in time, I would just like to give over to you for all of us just to introduce ourselves. So our names, where we are from, if we want to share that, what we do for a living, and then our favorite food. So yeah, I'll give over to anyone now at this point. Okay, Cindy.
Hi everyone, I'm Cindy. I'm an attorney by trade, but I have my foot a bit in both worlds. I work in corporate, so I head up a department for one of the airlines in South Africa, and then I also run my own consultancy and I have an NGO as well that looks after youth development.
Narina.
Hi, I'm Narina Josephs. I'm a project manager by profession. I've worked in the corporate industry for more than 20 years. I also have a non-profit organization that focuses on the empowerment of young women.
Danielle.
And my favorite food.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
And Cindy also.
I love fruit and veg and mostly roast veggies.
Yum.
Okay, on my end, I actually forgot to say that. Actually, I'm not a fan of food. I can eat sweets and luxuries both of the time.
Yeah. Danielle.
Okay, hi. My name is Danielle van Wyk. I have a background in journalism. That's what I studied, but I've moved more into the content creation space now. So I work for a personal finance company, and I write and curate and aggregate and edit and all of those things, financial content.
Thank you. Aika.
Hi everyone, my name is Aika Mbebe. I am a life and business strategist. I own a business management consultancy in Durban, and my favorite food is avocado.
Ah, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think I will probably maybe just do a little bit more of an introduction of myself. I know I've been hosting Girl Positive, but this evening I will also just maybe conversate or comment a little bit in the capacity of my profession. So I'm a graphic designer by profession. I have a little bit over 10 years experience in the online, digital and print industry. And I ran a ministry / small t-shirt business called Truth Apparel. So that is your panelist this evening. And I'd like to just once again welcome all of those who have joined us on the live stream. Throughout our conversation, you are welcome to just comment, ask questions in the comment section. And as a special addition, please, as you are listening to our discussion, you are welcome to share your Instagram, Facebook, or website with us for all the small startup businesses, entrepreneurs out there who are just trying to get their name out, especially in the context of COVID-19. Once again, you are welcome to share your details as well as your information on your small business venture. So as we get into the conversation, I'd like to throw the first question out there to our panel. I'd like to ask you, what are the benefits and challenges of having your own business, your freelancing background, your organization, or just your side hustle? The benefits and challenges that you face? Cindy.
Yeah, I think benefit would be you have the luxury of choosing who you actually want to work with. Because normally, if you within a company, you get told who you have to deal with. So, I think the luxury of running your own or consulting is you can actually pick and choose if you want someone that has your same values, your same standards. I think the negative is you actually, contrary to popular belief, you work way harder than you do
Yeah.
when you incorporate. You can't take sick leave because whenever you're sick, you're not making money. And actually gaining customers and retaining customers, it's much harder than people assume. I think people tend to see the end result of running your own consultancy and business. They don't see when a customer doesn't pay you, when they take 3 months to pay you and you can't pay your bills because they haven't paid you and they don't care.
Yeah.
But like I said, the stress is a bit different. And I think the ladies would share that there's even though you're struggling and you don't have money, the fact that you're doing it for yourself, it just comes with something so much different. And winning that deal that everyone said, ah, you're too small to get it, and all of those things, you have major wins, but I think you get hit very hard as well.
Yeah. So, Marina?
I think for me, one of the biggest challenge, having come from a corporate environment, was getting my rhythm. I was in this corporate mold for more than 20 years, and becoming an entrepreneur, I struggled to break that mold. You go to a corporate, your office is this little cubicle, and then you have a home office and you can choose between the one room and the other, where you want to sit in the sun and where you want to work. So that was one of the biggest challenges for me. It's also to be flexible and to look for opportunities in the market to grow the business, meeting your finance targets in the current environment, and partnering with companies that you are aligned to with regards to your vision, your products and services. Yeah, of the benefits is, I'd say, agree with Cindy, you have more flexibility. And for me, as far as family responsibilities are concerned, you don't feel that stressed out. And in my instance, especially because I've had my dad living with me that was aged, I've got a grandson, and you kind of just manage your life around that. So, yeah.
Danielle?
So I don't particularly have my own side hustle, if you will, but I do work for a place that has very flexible working hours. So I've kind of gotten a taste of what it is to kind of, make your own times, go into the office when you're able. Also, if not, you can work from home. And I'd say that, and also I have dabbled in the space of freelancing. So I do have, I've gotten a taste of kind of what it is. But I'd say that flexibility, as the other ladies have pointed out, is important and has become very important to me. But I think one of the challenges, specifically during lockdown, with the fact that I am completely home based now, is that I am an extrovert and I feed off energy. I love having people around me. I think I realized how much I actually enjoy the office when it comes to having people to feed off from, people to bounce ideas off of. So I feel like the challenge would be, and I'm just imagining myself now being an entrepreneur and being fully home based, as other ladies have pointed out. I think that would pose a massive challenge to me, and maybe also it could also on the flip side be of benefit, because it would probably have to force me to look for more creative ways to forge partnerships and collaborations. And yeah, so but I'm seeing that is a big challenge currently to me.
Yeah. Heiko?
For me, the benefits of having my own business, I would say, is growth. I'm unlike heading a large department in someone else's organization. I don't have the luxuries of an admin or a PA anymore. So I get to do everything. I get to be everything in my own company. And that allows me to grow in ways that I never thought of. And also humbles me, because one day when I do afford an admin, hopefully soon, um, I would know exactly what goes into that job to make us successful. It's not, I won't be barking down instructions about a post I know nothing of. The challenge is definitely would be, if you used to working for someone else, you are going to lose out the security of a constant and determined paycheck.
Yeah.
When you work for yourself, the money is not as constant and it's not the same. Sometimes you make more, sometimes you make less. And the money is supposed to last you from this contract to your next contract, and you don't know when your next contract is. So you don't really know how long this is supposed to stretch you. So that would be the biggest challenge.
Mm. Yeah, I can relate to what we're all sharing in terms of, consistency and the instabilities here and there, but also just realizing, especially because of COVID-19 and the lockdown happened, and having to relook at, where we are going, not just in our work situations, but in our careers, which is mostly what we are discussing and conversating about tonight, kind of really opens your eyes to one or two things or perspectives you haven't really thought of before. And so I think one really has to ask yourself the question, between business and freelancing and doing various things, what roots one? Where do you find your roots? And with that, I'd like to ask the question, did you always sort of want to do what you are doing now? Do you think that would change? And what is it in that context that roots you as a woman of business?
I
Cindy?
think I didn't always want to have my own. I think when I was in Cape Town, I was very happy just working and and earning enough and having enough money, because I had studied and I was an attorney. I was admitted, so I didn't really care. And then it was my move to Johannesburg, and I think I shared with you earlier. I actually burnt out at some point because when I came here, my mind shift just changed, and you started chasing for things that really was not part of my goals when I was in Cape Town. And it was just at that point I decided, like, look, the amount of time I was putting in at work and what you get out is not, you don't get out what you put in. And just decided, look, if I had to put that effort into my own things, I could make my own money, and I could actually charge back to my and consult to my company and charge more. So that was really what created my shift. Was I just realized I wasn't going to be a slave to someone forever.
Mm. Narina? Okay, Narina.
Wanted to be a child psychologist. And so when I entered the corporate environment with my first job, I thought I'll study further in psychology, postgrad, etc. But I enjoyed the corporate world, and also having a background in psychology, just the dynamics and working with teams. And then when I got into project management, I had an aha moment, where it's like, this is where I need to
I want
be.
to be.
I love this, because you're going from one project to the next. You're not stuck with one thing, doing the same kind of thing for years, but you working with different teams within the business and delivering on different projects. And you actually look back and you can say, oh, the launch of that global fund, I was part of it, this, that, etc. You're part of it. And then when I started the Teen Girl Empowerment the Young Women Empowerment Program, the nonprofit organization called Destined for Greatness Miss Independent, it gave me the opportunity to work with young women, counseling, doing workshops with them, also stimulating them and letting them do creative things. So I also wanted to be a psychologist or principal of an art school. And so I didn't go the conventional way, but somehow it's come together, because in the NPO, I'm having to counsel with young girls, I'm having to counsel with their parents, etc. There's the creative things that they get to do, the performing, the arts and crafts and all of that. And also having working with the marketing that I'm doing within a whole foods or health foods environment, working, you have kind of the corporate, the business, you know, and the community. So it's bringing the two together. So I kind of got more than what I bargained for, and I'm loving it. And I thank God for it.
Danielle.
So for me, it was probably, I mean, anyone who knew me growing up would tell you that law was always the route that I was going to go. And you know, at being a grade 11 learner at the time, you are told, "Ugh, don't just apply for one thing. You need to have a backup." And I knew that I enjoyed writing. I knew, I mean, I think as far back as I remember, I used to literally, this is a little snippet out of the nerd tales of Danielle. But as a grade, I remember being a grade 5 learner, and my favorite thing, I think, in grade 5, my parents can tell you, is I would ask my dad to buy exercise books for me, just plain exercise books. And I would literally spend my time writing my own stories. I would write my own books, my own novels. I would invent my own characters. That was fun to me. And then I'd make my parents read it and then on to the next one. So I knew that writing was always a passion, but it was always going to be law. But I think at the time then, or in thinking of a backup, or second option rather, I decided, look, why not apply for journalism? It's something that I think I knew someone at the time who was studying it. It's something that I was interested in. And so I prayed about it and I was accepted for both. And I think, at cut a long story short, the very last minute, I actually decided to go with journalism. And I think the first 3 years of being in industry took me everywhere. I was in TV and production at a stage. I was in magazines. I was in news. I was everywhere. And I think about 3 years ago, I actually got offered an internship at the company I'm currently at, which is in the financial space, something that I have honestly never considered up until that point. But a true blessing, because I have grown within this space in a way that I don't think I would have had I stayed on the course that I had imagined myself to be on, if that makes sense. So yeah, so completely different from where I thought I'd be. And I'd say, added to that, in the last year or so, I've actually moved away from journalism as one would, or mainstream journalism rather. And I've actually started dabbling in content strategy, content creation more. And I've actually, like Narina said, I think when I started within the content strategy space, it was like a light bulb went on for me, because I am, as my team calls me, the ideas person. I'm the ideas person. I'm the person who someone comes to and says, this is what I want to do. How can we, what can we, you know, all of that. So content strategy is that for me, and I'm enjoying the space, and I'm also enjoying discovering the space, because this is new to me. So I guess I'm pretty much at the beginning of my journey with this, but yeah.
Very interesting. Aika.
Yeah.
Growing up, I've always said I was going to become a businesswoman. I had no idea what that meant. It just looked glamorous to me. I also thought I was going to be tall, and I also thought I was going to be thin. So that should tell you something. But when I had to choose my career, I actually wanted to do law. But my mother said no. I've always been outspoken and confrontational. So I thought, oh my goodness, this would be the career for me. My mother thought I'm rebellious. So she was convinced that I will only defend criminals and I would win. So she said no. And because my older sister had chosen to be a doctor because she wanted to be a surgeon, which she is now, I was given the option of either going that route or somewhere in medicine. So I opted for psychology. And then I fell in love with helping people. So in undergrad, I did psychology and industrial psychology. And then in postgrad, I fell more in love with business, which was my original dream. So in postgrad, I then branched off into the organizational development psychology, which is a space that I'm in. And my career, initially in my early 20s and early 30s, I worked a lot with NGOs. So I fell even more in love with people and communities and finding ways and strategies and helping people better their lives, and also in their personal capacity. So over time, that developed me into being a life and business strategist, in that I'm able to help people with their lives and where they want to go with their businesses or their personal lives. And also I'm able to go into corporate and say, okay, let's have a look at your strategy. How are we expanding? How are we growing? Where are we leaking money? What resources that do we have right now that we can mobilize to get us where we want to go? So besides for the money right now, I'm living the dream.
Yeah. And I think this can relate to your point, Aika, to so many that might be listening on our live stream. You know, some of us might be listening here for different reasons, maybe for inspiration, maybe just to hear people's stories, maybe to come and see that, you know, maybe being in business and running your own gig is not all what it seems. And some of us, I think, will share a little bit of that honesty later on in our conversation. But my next question is, so in the current economy and with the little guarantee that we have of, you know, economic stability and the high risk some of us are taking in our jobs and in our careers, what are the practical steps do you think that we can put in place to cope? Not just because of COVID, but just in a general sense for many of us that are revisiting or, you know, re-looking where our careers and our jobs are taking us.
Okay, so I think from my end, as everyone knows, aviation, our planes are completely standing still. So we've actually not been earning any incomes during this time. And for an industry where majority of our employees, that's all they know, it's the only industry they have worked in. So it's not as simple as saying, okay, just start a side hustle. They don't know that much. But having to have the conversations, I think the approach I took is, I have a consultancy, but people don't have money to consult right now. So having it doesn't quite help because nobody has the money. They need the legal advice, but they don't have the money to pay you. So I've helped those that I know are genuine, because I also know some people like taking advantage. They say they don't have, but they actually do. So just continue to give. And I think I just took the approach of praying about it. So every Wednesday, myself and my cousin, we fast and pray every Wednesday since the lockdown has started, because I think I shared with you earlier, not having an income, I still had food, I still managed to pay. I don't know how, but I've been okay during this time, and I've literally not had an income. And I think that was just me and my cousin's approach, because my one cousin's in London, she's going through exactly the same thing. So a few of me and my cousins just got together. Our strategy has just been every Wednesday we pray, it'll sort itself out.
Yeah. Nirina?
From my side, I think it's important to continue to put your plans before God, to ask for His guidance and to ask for His wisdom. The time that we're living in is uncertain for everybody. And although I'm doing some work within the food industry, within the essential services, we were fortunate to work. We were closed, our company was closed for 1 week. And then, you know, we were back at work. But as a team, we prayed and we trusted God. Also, since we've been working from home, some of us are able to work from home. It was important to leverage off the good relationships that we have established with customers, because previously where you would go and visit them, they now understand that things have changed and that there's a risk, you know, with having that contact. So, and also demonstrating to customers that you're adding value to their business, to review current operational procedures and to see what efficiencies can be put in place to work smarter during this time. And then also to remain relevant and current in terms of your product offering and service offering, to continue learning and taking courses. There are many online courses. There's a massive change within the world. And I have studied change management as well, and wanting to study further in that line, because more than anything, previously on projects, having a change manager was seen as, you know, like maybe an unnecessary resource. And with the change happening, it's required, that resource is critical, you know, in any industry, really.
Danielle?
So I've been fortunate in that how I work has not really been affected much by this pandemic. In terms of when I say this, I mean I work most of what I write, most of what I do takes place online. So not much of what I do has really been affected by COVID. I'd say I can basically it's basically business as usual. I'm just obviously working from home. But I think Narina just touched on a very important point in that she said that it is very important for us to always stay relevant. We have a thing within our team at work where we say that, or every 6 months where we review our performance. There's a time in that meeting that we usually dedicate towards talking about what's happening in the next 6 months. What are we doing to upskill ourselves? I think upskilling is extremely important, and I find the space I'm in, which
Can
is
you help you maybe? Do you want to give us just a quick rough definition of what upskilling is? Because maybe some of us
okay, rough definition.
have no idea what it is.
Okay. It's just ensuring that you are constantly bettering your skills. Plain speak. So for me, like I said, I'm in the media space. I'm constantly at the moment, or currently I'm doing a digital content marketing course, but I'm constantly looking out for other courses to do, for other things to take part in. There are actually a lot of discussions as well. I don't know if you know, there are a lot of moots that take place. So these are like massive online open courses, free things that you can be a part of, where people all over the world will come together and on one platform. And there's so much to be learned. There's so much in terms of resources I find that are actually out there. And it just takes you to look. It takes you to actually be interested, to actually, do your part in looking. So I find that whether we are talking within a COVID context or in general, it is extremely important to ensure that you are always staying relevant, remaining relevant within your industry. I think that for me, that is something that is extra important, because there are so many people writing these days. You don't need a journalism degree to write. Everyone and anyone has access to the internet. Anyone and everyone, if they will or if they want to, can put up a blog. So it's important, because there's so much competition out there. It's important that you are ensuring that you are staying on top of your game. And I think that that's not only specific to my industry, but can probably be applied throughout.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Danielle. Eike, maybe Eike, before you comment, I know that you mentioned something quite profound in another conversation we had about, when it comes to practical, we are speaking tonight about women in business and entrepreneurship. And you mentioned something quite profound. You mentioned something about the question of the why. Maybe you can also, along with the comment that you want to give now, mention or explain just something to us about what the why means.
Thank you, Natasha. Let me quickly just echo the words of my fellow panelists. I read somewhere that companies that are still in existence today, that are billion-dollar companies, are the same companies that were small years ago, that were able to ride the wave during an economic crisis, during a pandemic. It requires that we have a mindset change. I like Narina's example of change management. Change management is one of the reasons, is one of the contracts that's currently working for me right now, that's allowing me to bring in an income, because change is constant. And having the skills to manage change is what keeps you riding the wave. When it comes to your why, when you are an entrepreneur, you're always going to come to a place where everything everything you're sure of, disappears. It feels like someone has just pulled the rug from under your feet just when you've just planted your feet. And it is a very confusing and painful space to be, because you feel absolutely defeated. And in the world we know, they always tell us that you got to define your why. Why are you doing what it is that you're doing? Why are you in business? So for me, my why is I love people. I love being able to use my knowledge and my skills and my passion to help people better their lives. I like being able to take my corporate training and be able to help businesses better their profit margins. But in the same way, if they better their profit margins and I change their working environment, I'm still helping people. That's my why. This is why I do what I do. But sometimes the why is overwhelming in itself because it's not just one dimensional. Yes, there's that corporate why that feeds into my passion, but my other why is I want to be able to define my time so I can be a great mom to my kids and have the time for all that yada yada yada, and build a mansion and buy a Merc and a Maserati. You know, the list goes on. I thought you wouldn't catch that. But after some while, you realize that you're not getting there and you're not getting there fast enough. And the why in itself becomes burdensome because it's frustrating to take 10 steps forward and then you have to take 100 back every time just because so you can move just an inch closer to your goal. So the why gets burdensome. And for me, what then roots me is, yes, I know my why. Yes, I know where I want to get to. Yes, I know what I want to do. However, I've come to understand that I am not powerful enough to get me there. So my why is now rooted in my who. And this is where religion plays an important role. And for me, my faith and the God in whom I trust is the reason why I'm still able to pursue my why. Because had he not strategized and put me in these uncomfortable spaces that have helped me to grow, I unfortunately, like majority of people, would have probably closed my doors by now. Not to say if your doors are closed, God is not with you. Maybe this is the time for you to sit back, look at what you're doing, what you want to do, and re-strategize on how you're going to do it better. Or find a new way to ride the same wave, you know? But you gotta base your why on a who. Otherwise, it's gonna overwhelm you and the burden will be heavy.
I just, before I move on to the next question, I just want to maybe probe Cindy a little bit because I know that she doesn't just have a background in law and various other aspects, but I know that she kind of runs some type of organization. And I know that there's another who involved and there's sport involved. So Cindy, do you just in 1 minute want to give us a little bit of a bit more background in that, and also just, you know, what is it that you've learned out of that that can maybe inspire someone out there that's looking to forge community and also the background that you come from?
Okay, so the development organization that we have, I work mostly with boys though. We use sports as a tool for social change. So it's really just using a mountain bike to teach kids just their self-esteem, to get their self-esteem back, because I think poverty tends to take away your belief in yourself, and that's why children tend to if they're told they're bad, they act bad. And if you can teach them that actually your circumstances aren't that, and that you can get out, they tend to just naturally start working harder. So I think I gradually grew into that because same reason I chose law was I just wanted fairness, and to level the playing field for people. So it comes out in the work that I do, with the NGO work that I do. And people generally ask, okay, what do you teach your kids? And I was like, the same things I learned in Pathfinders, that if you do the small things right, you get the bigger things right, and that you have to have discipline. And I think the basics are very simple. And people generally tend to ask, okay, how do you start a business? How do you start an NGO? Where did you get the money? And I keep reminding them, nobody's going to give you money if you haven't started anything. You kind of just have to start, because for most businesses, you literally just need your brain. You don't need these fancy marketing ideas, because people tend to focus so much on websites and all of that. Our NGO has no website. We've won international awards. My consulting company still doesn't have a website, and anything. I run on referrals, because I just felt personally I didn't have the money to invest in things like that. So my advice to people is always start. I have some of my kids during the pandemic, they've literally been selling fake cook and stuff in the township to make money, and that's a business. And I think that's what we were speaking about earlier as well, is people tend to think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be a millionaire, and it's very few that get to that level. Majority of us struggle, and we do it because we're passionate and we want to affect change. We don't do it for the fancy Porsche and the Ferrari, because it oftentimes doesn't come. And like Ika said, if you don't know your why, it makes this journey so much harder, because like, why are you doing it? So like I said, my principle has always been, and I think that's why I've remained having my foot in one door, is just fairness, and wanting to affect change.
Okay, great. So, Cindy, you mentioned the word referrals, and I'd like to jump into the next question with that keyword. If we now have to look at sort of this community of faith that we find ourselves in on this panel, and some of you out there on the live stream might find yourselves also in different movements and communities of faith. And so, specifically within our faith, I'm wondering how well, speaking of, like I said, the keyword referrals, how well we support each other within our community of faith in terms of, entrepreneurs, businesses, even though, and especially because of COVID, Cindy, you are referring to businesses that are now just popping up that might not even realize that they are businesses, but they are servicing a need. And so even though there are some infrastructures that might not seem glamorous, but they meet a need, how well do you think this idea of supporting each other locally, what is that all about? And is it something that you would encourage?
I think in the space of church, it's kind of not been explored. So it would be unfair to say that people don't support, because we're only starting to have these kind of discussions now in the space of church. Because I think outside of this, if you're an entrepreneur, there'll be a lot of women run businesses that get together and try and support each other. We haven't kind of explored these types of things within the confine of or context of church. Because technically when you go to church, you go to pray, all of those things. You're not there to sit and sell and pitch your business. And it's something probably as SDAs we should explore, because we do sit with different challenges. Like I said, we can't work on Saturdays, you can't work on a Friday. So as an entrepreneur, you could be deemed to be lazy when a client is calling you at that time and you're like, but sorry, I have to go to church. So platforms like these, just creating awareness that there is people in church that actually run businesses that you can support. It's a start, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Nerina, before you answer, I'd like to remind our listeners out there, because this platform is for, inspiring businesses, business women, entrepreneurs, side hustles out there. Please be reminded to just post the links to your Facebook, your Instagram, or your website in the comment section, so that we can just really be sharing in this kind of conversation and community. It's always great to just get new exposure and to be really at the point of referral on a digital platform. So Nerina and then Danielle and Eike, you can then comment on the specific question now.
I think outside of, even before COVID-19, the church that I come from, my home church where I grew up, the support has been great for entrepreneurs. You kind of feel, and it also goes about quality. You going to support someone if you know that you're going to get value for your money, irrespective. So I look at, for example, my husband had a transport company, and he'd often be the first one that they'd ask to take the pathfinders somewhere, to take the seniors somewhere, etc. And then also there were dressmakers, seamstresses. So if there was any sewing needed for the pathfinders, those people in the church would be approached. Chefs, plumber, even supporting doctors. So I think it also depends on how close-knit the church is, and just the culture in terms of wanting to support one another as church members. And yeah.
Danielle?
So look, we've been told, I'm sure we're all aware, and those listening as well, that it's now important for our economy to support local, now more than ever, given the COVID context and the pandemic context. It is become increasingly important to support local, so that we know. But if we're talking within a church context, I sometimes find that it's harder to do so. And I don't say this from someone just speaking from a personal perspective, but from looking around, I sometimes see that we have certain individuals within a congregation or within the larger church setting who do come forward and say, look, this is what I do, this is my business, they're positioning themselves. And I often also see that those same individuals then hit back with maybe an odd Facebook post, or I hear passing conversations. And often I think the notion is that these people are not getting the support. I'm so glad to hear that Auntie Narina was saying that, her church specifically, she says that she feels the support has been amazing. I think that that's awesome. And I think that it also hits back to what she was saying, or to add to what she was saying, I think it also comes down to church culture. It comes down to, the willingness of people to support one another. And added to that, I often also hear Adventists say that some of them are hesitant sometimes to position themselves in what they do within the church context, because often they're exploited then for doing so. So the expectancy
The freebies.
Exactly. The freebies. I was trying to find a nice way of saying that, Natasha, but thank you. So
Look, it's tough being a graphic designer,
Listen,
people always need adverts.
The freebie conversation happens, and so I think that makes people hesitant then to share what they do professionally and share what they can do professionally, because you have that. And I'm not saying it's everyone, but it's a big enough part of it that it makes a lot of people not to share, if you understand what I'm saying. So I feel like if we can just combat that element, we could get to a place, I think, where we would be more inclined to support one another. And that aside, I would say that now I would encourage people to put themselves out there in terms of what they do, but also for us to be listening, for us to be tapped in, for us to take note. So if Natasha comes out and says, look, guys, this is what I'm doing, let's maybe take note, both as a church body, as a congregation, but also just people at large. Let's stay in tune with what people are doing and what people have going, and see where we can support.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. Aiko.
I agree a lot with what has just been said, but I also want to put in there that it's quite possible that people also don't know how to support. Our support needs are not the same. I understand that maybe people can't afford my services because of what's going on. So obviously, as much as they'd want to use my services, they're not comfortable and they don't want an ugly relationship in church. I get that. But the support I need, and I feel most businesses need, is the ability to tap into different networks. I have a Facebook page. The support I would need, if you don't have the money to buy services from me, is to like my page, to share my post, because you never know, my next client could be a friend of yours. So when we understand that support is not always you giving me money or buying a service from me, just supporting me in that, just like and share and comment my YouTube channel. It may not be your cup of tea, but who knows? Someone on your timeline may see this and it might help them, and it might bring in business for me, and vice versa. I should do that for you, because let's just take Facebook, for example. Each of us have probably more than 300 people who are friends on Facebook. You sharing and liking a post, a business post that I have, and saying, hey guys, look at this girl. She does this. Anyway, look at her page if you want more information. That's 300. You've exposed me to 300 people. Maybe one out of that 300 is my next business. That's support. That's what we need more of, exposure. People don't have money to pay for marketing, but if we can support each other that way, our businesses, we can actually really trade and better. I trade and better a lot because I don't always have the money. So I have the skill to create a website. You have the graphic skill, for example. So we would trade. I'd make your website to your specifications. You do my adverts. It's not always money. Sometimes the support we need is, I need your skill. I need your service. What can I give in as a trade? But if there's nothing, can you please just forward this so someone else may see it? It might be something that they need.
Thank you so much. And like this idea is probably like another discussion on its own about, building systems and building networks, not just in the business world itself, but also within our faith networks. And so speaking of faith, I'd actually like to ask, what, and if you've been bold enough, actually, what opportunities have come along and that you've maybe pursued or actually acted on in terms of witnessing in your business space?
Those tend to come up whether you want them or not. Sometimes they put you in trouble, sometimes it doesn't. But I think as a Christian, it kind of always comes up, and especially as a Seventh Adventist, when you have to actually explain why you can't do something at the risk of not getting money, because in a lot of instances, to make money, a lot of people expect you to cut corners. So as a Christian, oftentimes you find yourself having to say, no, I can't. And the advice I got given by a fellow attorney was, before every appointment or consultation I have, just to pray about it. So that you're getting a good client, and you're getting an honest client, because a lot of times with entrepreneurship especially, you could find yourself, on the face of it, the deal would look very appealing, and you could actually be walking into a whole lot of problems and not see it coming. So I don't know, my advice was, and it's worked for me so far, not always, but in most cases it's worked, is just to pray about, before I go into a consultation, to pray about it.
Thanks, Sandy. Nerina?
Yeah, from my side as well, if I look at maybe not even going into entrepreneurship, because I've only kind of working for myself for 2.5 years now. So even within the corporate environment, you find that you've got to be courageous and bold. And one of the projects, a massive, big project I worked on, people wouldn't talk about God, the Bible, prayer. And I kind of introduced it. And before we know it, the COO of that organization, if I send an email or I'll say, I'll pray about this, you get an email that says, hallelujah, praise God. From an environment where that was a no. And we going to the sports field. For me, where I worked was, before every meeting, I'd walk, I'd go and pray before I go into a meeting. And of the team members asking, Nerina, can you pray for me? This is happening, there's something happened, some crisis, etc. And being bold, because I've realized that, and I remember when I tried to get into the specific corporate, I prayed for a specific job, and God didn't give me that. He gave me, in that same company, other positions that was beyond my expectation.
Oh, wow.
But the fact is that I trusted God, and I went in and I said, Lord, I changed my prayer. I didn't say I want that job. I said, Lord, place me where you want me to serve you, no matter what the position is. And I found that whether I'm an entrepreneur, whether if you're bold about your faith, if you're bold about God, if you're not ashamed to praise Him, you will, I find in meetings, it's natural to just start a meeting with prayer, asking for God's blessing on whatever venture you're going into. And God is faithful.
Thank you, Nerina. Danielle?
So, as I mentioned previously, or earlier rather, so I've been completely working from home, specifically during this lockdown period, as I'm sure most of us have. And with that, a lot of people on my team have kids and they have homework, and the kids are at home, so the schedules have changed, and so there's been a lot of back and forth now with just regards to meetings as to when we can actually meet as a team. And the suggestions start with we try and make time for it in the week, and about a month ago specifically, we were actually looking at actually just having a meeting on a weekend, because we are just not getting around to this. And some people have, early mornings with 6-year-olds, and then others late nights, and then, it's crazy, and it's cooking and shopping and everything. So the suggestion came that we actually needed to have this meeting on a Saturday. And obviously, having been at this company rather, and worked with this team for, I'd say, this is going on my 5th year, we all know each other pretty well, and they know I'm Adventist. I know, which churches they attend, and we've touched on it, but I don't think we've ever really spoken about it, in depth at least. And so the questions came because obviously I had to say, look, guys, as I'm sure you guys know, I'm not able to attend the meeting on a Saturday, etc., etc. And so the questions came, and I actually found myself speaking to my mom about it and saying, I didn't quite know what to answer to some of these questions, because often we pray for witnessing opportunities, but when they come, are we ready?
It's like,
are we prepared? Do we know what to say? Because that's for many people, that is the first point of call when hearing about what it is you believe, why the Saturday, why this, why that, all of that. And my mom just reminded me, pray about it. So the questions have come, one team member specifically asking quite a bit of questions, and I'm happy, we chat about it. She hits me up on WhatsApp sometimes. So yeah, so there's I thank God actually for such opportunities that have, availed themselves to me. And this is very recent. This is like, up until a few weeks ago. But yeah, and I like what Antina says. I think when you are bold in your faith and what you stand for, these opportunities will show themselves. And I think that, as I said, I think it should be accompanied with constant prayer as well, so that when they avail themselves, what it is you need to say and how it is you need to say it. Because yeah, that's important too.
Thanks, Danielle. Eike.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. Listen to me.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Hear me fully. I don't think that people should be pressured to witness, right? In the ideal sense of witnessing, where we think witnessing is sitting someone down and saying, I believe in Jesus, and thus, and thus, and thus. A lot of people are not at that level of courage. And they need to grow into it. However, we mustn't overlook the fact that walking the upright life, being honest, being fair, the way you speak, the way you approach your work, making sure that you deliver on the things that you said you're going to deliver, and being honest and upright, that in itself is witness. I found it's not all areas that you're going to have an opportunity to say, hey, I believe in Jesus and this is what he's done for me. But by you, I found that, by me doing what I'm supposed to do and doing it right, being honest where others cut corners, have brought people back to me and say, why do you do this? Because it's time consuming. No one sees you. Then I can say, but you go in there wanting to be an honest person. Who knows, though the CEO or whomever you sign the contract with doesn't see you, God does. And he expects you at all times to give off your best because he called you and therefore he equipped you. So if we go in with that mindset and know that even that is witnessing, then we won't feel the pressure of saying, oh, this person is coming in, I must tell them. No, just know you're appointed where you are for such a time as that time. And you being upright is sufficient to plant a seed. Where God opens the opportunity for you to then say, when the person asks, or there's an opportunity for you to then say, this is what I believe in, this is whom I believe in, this is what he has done for me. But don't pressure yourself. You're going to bite your tongue. You're going to feel out of sorts. Calm down. Whatever you need to witness is already in you. All you need to do is just keep on the path, keep straight.
Thank you, Eike. So we are rounding off our conversation this evening, and I have the last question. And I just want to remind those that are on our live stream at the moment that following our panel discussion, I will be speaking to Grant Appel, which is the head of sales and development at LifeCheck. So he will follow right after our discussion. So my last question is, we don't want to prescribe anything. We are not. at I think, the peak of our game. So we don't want people to be quitting their jobs and leaving what they've worked for behind. But what I'd like to ask the panel is to end off with words of encouragement. What words of encouragement do you have to share with those out there, especially women, that have been contemplating either a career change or switch, starting up their own business, starting up their own side hustle, or even if it's just, wondering if they should put a 20 Rand aside every week to start making donuts from home? What words of encouragement do you have for them?
I think from my end, what I've learned is to stop caring about what people think, because no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone that thinks what you're doing is dumb. So if you feel like doing something, pursue it, because I think I've learned that I'd rather do something and fail than regret not doing it and sit wondering. And that's what most people do in corporate. They sit wondering and wondering about how. And if you simply start, you don't have to quit your job. You can do it on the side. If you simply just start with whatever, and pursue what you want without concern for others. Because I think the best advice I was given was stop listening to the noise and focus on what it is that you want.
Yeah. Nerina?
I would say that one must also take calculated risks. If you're considering resigning from your job, ensure that you have enough savings to sustain you for about, I think, at least 2 to 3 years. And also try and have a passive income so that when you're busy, if you're going into another business, at least there is some income. Invest in something where you're going to get a return. And also try and start your own business alongside, while you're still working. Many big companies have started in garages, a room at home, etc. And the market has taken to their products. They've grown tremendously, and they now, some are big corporations. So, and then also do what you love. Don't live your life on other people's terms. You have one life. And then you can accomplish anything in life with commitment, dedication, and hard work. So if you're passionate about something, you go for it. But realize that being an entrepreneur is hard work. It's actually a different breed than coming from corporate. It can be extremely unsettling. But it is rewarding, and what helps also is to network with other entrepreneurs, because you learn from them and you kind of say, oh, you've been doing this, and even if it's someone that's you look at different products. I know someone that's developed a health product, one product, and this person is doing so well, but she believes in herself. So if you believe in what you do, if you're prepared to invest in what you do before you ask others to invest, then you're on the right track.
Thank you, Nerina. Danielle? So
I'd say probably simply put, just start. There are always going to be a million reasons as to why you should wait, why you shouldn't, why now is not a great time, and I've learned to honestly just look past most of those things and just start. I think you grow in confidence as you grow in experience, in all areas of life, but also career-wise. Me being at the end of my 20s now, I can definitely say that I'm doing things now. I'm daring to do things now that I would never have even thought to do 3 years ago, in my career. And it is, some of them, have been massive mistakes, but I've learned from them, and others have really paid off. But I'd say just start, just go for it. And then as an added piece of advice, I'd say align yourself with like-minded individuals. Align yourself with people who are maybe also starting out, but then also people who are experienced, or who are where you want to be, if that makes sense. I think a lot can be said with surrounding yourself with people who are maybe already established in the field that you are wanting to grow in, but also people who are starting out. So there's, that kind of you can bounce things off of one another. You kind of growing together, you get that support. But yeah, and also something that we explore within our team a lot is finding yourself a business coach, finding yourself someone who you can, speak to, who can guide you, someone that you trust, because it's a tough journey. There is so much that you go through, I think, also emotionally, mentally, all of that. So it's always nice to have someone that you can talk to, I guess.
Thanks, Danielle. Eike.
Let me start off by saying, will a man build a house lest he count the cost? And counting the cost is not always money. Like Danielle just said, you need to seek professional guidance. You may have the money, but you may not have the mindset, or you may not have strategic direction. To start is not always to start and have a product and start selling. Sometimes starting is actually creating a roadmap that you're going to take and making sure it's strategic, and you're going to use whatever money that you have, or whatever resources are available to you, mobilize them in ways that it's going to help you bring in money. I have a slogan. My slogan is begin, commit, conquer.
Okay.
To ever conquer in anything, you have to begin. Beginning is easy. It's an idea, it's a dream, it's a goal. The middle part, the committing, is where we start seeing people fall away, because committing it needs strategy, and your strategy fails and you re-strategize. It needs perseverance. It needs a mindset that says, I want this more than, I would rather have here than where I was. If you're on a diet, it's something like, and you really want a piece of cake, and you say to yourself, nothing tastes as good as thin feels. It's kind of that principle.
Yeah.
It's kind of that principle. The dream must be so real to you that nothing tastes as good as, as reaching it. Even going back is no longer an option. Yes, sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward, but as long as we're still moving in the forward direction, and that's the only way you get to the third point, in which you conquer. So you begin and you commit. Yes, committing doesn't mean just because you had planned a route from A to B. Sometimes it's A, C, D, E, G, before you get, that's okay. But commit. That's the only way you're going to get to the other side, where you conquer. And conquering and success is varied across. It's not a Maserati. For some people, for me, I feel successful even though I don't have the money. But for me to have a business that has survived and is going on its 5th year, I feel like, my goodness, crown me already. What's wrong with you people? I may not have the house I want, but success is relative. And learn to celebrate the little successes. Don't wait until you have the house and the Maserati and the flashy. Be grateful you learned a skill. I was an industrial psychologist person and not a person who does websites. Now I have a new skill. Celebrate your successes.
Thank you so much.
Content.
Thanks so much, Eike. So on that note, I would like to thank all the panelists I had with me this evening, women in business and entrepreneurship, coming from industries of aviation and law, from project management, and also starting up in the food and health business, also from digital content and lifestyle management, and then also from business strategy. Thank you so much to the panelists once again for joining me this evening on this conversation, and for those of us that have joined us on the live stream. Just a reminder once again to add any of your Instagram, Facebook, or websites to the comment section, just to share and to build in the community. And so after this, do stay tuned to the Girl Positive page, as I will be joined in conversation with Grant Appel, which is the head of sales and business development at LifeCheck. Once again, thank you so much to the panelists. May you have a good evening further. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks, Natasha.